So our next speaker is Renee Alfero, and she also has a surprise guest with her as well. But Renee Alfero is a behavior and training specialist at Wolf Connection, where she oversees the socialization of rescued wolves and wolf dogs while training volunteers and staff in animal handling and care. Renee's passion for animal behavior started in childhood with horse and dog training, leading her to Moore Park College's exotic animal training program while working as a veterinary technician. She has dedicated over 15 years to Wolf Connection, guiding the wolf care team with expertise and a deep commitment to both animals and people. So without further ado, welcome Renee Alfero.
Hey, hi everybody. Thank you for being here. And Kyla, if you can go ahead and bring up our special guest. We have a different special guest. It's actually not me. So I am the behavior and training specialist at Wolf Connection. And we have one of our ambassador wolf dogs here today to join us. Go ahead, Wiley, come here. Come here, buddy. Thank you. And so this is Wiley. So he's one of our wolf dog ambassadors and of our many rescues that we have here. And oh, got the clicker. My first day. All right, so this is Wolf Connection. So Wolf Connection is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our focus is wolf and wolf dog rescue, providing them forever life sanctuary. All of our animals have come from some kind of illegal ownership, backyard breeders, zoo attractions, and even fur farms, unfortunately. And a lot of our programs that we do are with the youth. So we serve our communities through youth empowerment programs. Wolves are the first animals that we actually coexisted and co-evolved with. So that's how we have dogs today. So there's a very special relationship that we have with wolves that goes back many, many years ago, and a deeper, deeper bond. So us and our humans, even though I'm obviously technically challenged over here, is we're getting very overwhelmed with technology these days and the advancement of what human life and extending it. And yet the wolves are here to help us to our primal selves, what our real selves are. And so today what we're going to talk about mostly is wolf and wolf dog husbandry training and wellness, and what does that look like at our sanctuary. We're going to be covering behavior plans and logs. Of course, as you all know, everything that you do has to be written down somewhere and tracked and graphed and be able to show later on. We also do a lot of enrichment for our wolves since they are captive wolves and wolf dogs. They can't be released in the wild. We provide a lot of enrichment to help enact their natural behaviors as best as we possibly can at the sanctuary. We have a lot of socialization that goes on with these wolves. They are pack animals, just like our humans. You know, we are our own tribe, our own pack, and it's very important for them to have that connection, and I'll show you how we do that. Go through a lot of specific trainings for the wolves as well that goes into the husbandry and wellness training. Very important trainings that also build our relationships and our bonds with them. We have our medical care, and of course, if you can imagine medical care on an animal like so is probably not what's typical for your domestic dog going to your local vet. And there's a lot of creativity that has to be involved in how we provide our medical care for our animals. And then last at the end, I'm going to talk about transitions. I did mention that all of our wolves stay with us for life. So we rescue them together, we care for them together and provide the best possible life that they deserve. And then we do help them transition together. So here are just some of our logs that the team has made. And so many different things that we have here are hiking logs, enrichment logs, volunteers also. We have staff and we have volunteers that do dedicate their time. Some of them actually on Zoom, which I'm very grateful for. And we have our enrichment calendar and of course, provide our animals with a lot of different supplements, but medications as well, as since our animals, when they come to us, they don't usually get the best diets, the best care, the best medical, and usually are eating just off-the-shelf dog food at your local pet store. Their needs aren't being met in many ways. So we have a lot of proactive, preemptive care that we try to do to prevent issues later on. So feeding the pack, we currently have 44 wolves and wolf dogs at our sanctuary right now. We hit our peak at one time at 46 last year in the history of Wolf Connection. And of course, over the years, it's built, up. But there's a natural rotation as we rescue some, others and elders pass away. And so it's this continuous cycle that we work with. So you can imagine there has to have some level of organization. Every wolf has their own bowls. They have 2 sets of bowls they get fed today. They get meat in the morning. It's a zoo grade Nebraska brand. You guys probably know that. We do the exotic canine for them. That usually involves different prebiotics and salmon oil, cosequin for some of our animals that have other ailments that they came with to us just to help with their glucosamine content. And then PM feeding, we do Missouri kibble, so the zoo grade exotic canine kibble as well. And then various mixes with that, and then you see our supplement board there on the side as well. And so every animal is individual, right? They all come to us at different ages, different wolf content, different physical conditions. They're usually in terrible shape when they come. And so there's a very long process. It usually takes at least the first year for us to see the benefit of being with us and better health and nutrition, and also just their psychological aspects of being with a pack and in a sanctuary. And then, of course, this is a great sign. This is Aaron, one of our pack staff, and he's working with 2 of our wolves fence feeding. So in the morning with our meat, we like to fence feed our wolves. It also helps build our relationship with them and our trust. A lot of our animals have been abused by humans, by human hands previous to us. So it's a lot about undoing their past and helping them find a safer, more trusting way forward. And so this is a great show. We have Gemma and Bayo, I believe. Yes, that's when they were still living together. They've both moved on to other habitat mates. But it's a great show of how also wolves are extremely respectful of each other. Since they operate as a pack together, they have an understanding of what it means to have boundaries, be safe together. Of course, not all of them come that way, because a lot of times when people have them as pets or in roadside attractions, they're usually separated and isolated, which is very dangerous for them. It's, makes their health go down greatly. So by being here, they learn that pack mentality. They learn the rules of the wolves, the way of the wolf. And so here's just a fun little show. We have great partnerships. Being a nonprofit, we're always looking for relationships and partnerships to better our pack. And these are just some really good containers with Cambro. They work with us and provide our restaurant grade containment for our kibble and our meat for the wolves. So we did a little thank you photo shoot for them. You can see the wolves appreciate it. Enrichment. So enrichment is very fun. We have a very exciting enrichment schedule for the wolves. It alternates through the year because we do have our on-site programs, working with youth. We also work with rehab centers and wounded veterans, and also just generally anybody who wants a little bit of wolf medicine in their life. And so depending on how busy we are at the sanctuary, we will either give more or give less enrichment, because having humans on site is enrichment of itself, right? So we try to balance between edible and tactile enrichment items. So different items that want to entice their natural behaviors, entice how to be more wolfy, how to track through their habitat and find some spaghetti. Spaghetti is a hot item with the pack, just so you know. Or boiled eggs. I'm learning that boiled eggs are now kind of in the running with the, the pasta, the spaghetti. And then, of course, seasonally, the tiny pumpkins are wonderful, especially if we crack them a little bit before giving them and we place them in different areas. They love the crunch and planting pumpkins. We've actually had some pumpkin plants growing in some of the habitats in the following years. So that's been an interesting experiment that kind of happened. And then Mia here, you see she has some watermelon. It's wonderful. They love it in the summer. In moderation, right? So nobody gets watermelon belly, but we do freeze it and they love to chew on it, and ice cubes and things like that. And then the next slide is a video. Let's see if this comes up. So this is a great version of tactile enrichment. It's a branch of some pepper tree that we have on site, although Coda might use it as edible as well. But he's one of our wolves that naturally, he's a tracker. So he really sees his world through his nose. He loves to explore everything intensely with his nose. And so having the pepper tree was very exciting to get the scent of it on him and his scent on it as well. This is very natural for wolves for scent rubbing. Since we are in the Angeles Forest, we have lots of other wildlife there, like mountain lions, bobcats, bears, coyotes, foxes, ravens, and all kinds of things. So definitely whenever they come across like coyote scat, they like to mark on top of it and kick it off to the side. If it's bobcat or mountain lion, they like to roll in it. It's a different species. They want to cover their scent on them. And for Coda here, he's an animal that we do take out on leash, just like Wiley, but he lives with a habitat mate that doesn't come out on leash. He's an animal that came from a fur farm. And so a lot of times we pair our animals together. It's not working now. Technical difficulties. There we go. So what's really fun is that someone like Coda will go roll in some bobcat scat and usually brings it back to his habitat mate Ozma, which is really exciting for her because then it gives her a different level of enrichment. She gets to smell where he's been, what trail he explored today, what humans he was out with. And so even though sometimes we're not in direct contact with the wolves, we are having a lot of contact with them. And so this is Maverick and Nova. This is a great way of how we also, this is a version of enrichment, and it's really important, the socialization. How do we build relationships with the wolves? Wolves are very incredible at bonding through migration, right? So wolves cover miles and miles of territory in the wild. A lot of times they have to split apart to kind of man the edges of their territory, figure out where their prey went, go back and tend to the pups at the den. And so when they come back together, it's very a ritual of coming back together and playing together. And then they get a lot of information from each other. What did they eat on the way? What did they come across? Maybe they came across another rogue pack. Who knows? So for them in this video, it's really cute. There's puppies in it. So this is 3 of our nannies. Wiley is what we consider a nanny. He's naturally a very nurturing wolf.
Good puppies.
I did not realize there was my voice on this. Don't mind me with the puppies. But we rescued these 3 puppies when they were about 3 months old. They were found locked in a van in a parking lot with a litter of puppies, their mom, their dad, and another youngster that seemed like from a previous litter. So they were taken to the shelter, and we were called to come and assess what the situation was. Unfortunately, some of the puppies did not survive. And so we went to do behavioral assessments of all the puppies and the parents and the older sibling and helped find sanctuary for all of them. And in an upcoming photo, you're going to see the whole family. It's the mom, the dad, and the 3 puppies grown up. So we've been able to actually have a whole family here and keep their relationships together, which is really fun. So in there, it was a really great opportunity because we typically get the wolves when they're much older, right? When someone has them as a pet, they think they're super cool and super sweet. They're going to control this wild animal, and they turn into this. They turn into something much larger, doesn't respond to control and dog obedience. It's all very relationship based. It's not ownership over pet. And then they're naturally very skittish, though Wiley's not showing you that. They're a little neophobic naturally. And so a lot of people just don't understand how to be with that. They can't, then they go to work, they go to school, they go out, and then their wolf is left by themselves in a panic because now their pack's away from them. So for the puppies, it was really exciting to be able to for them to grow up in that natural environment. And so they're incredible ambassadors now because they don't know any different. They don't know anything different than the proper pack mentality. They've been raised by nannies with pack leaders and betas and omegas and socialization with us. So they've had a very fulfilled life. They're turning 3 this year, actually. It's crazy to think. Alrighty, so there's another video in here. It will pop up in just a moment. But this is the family I was talking about. So this is Bayo, and then these are the puppies. They all look alike. I believe it's Rome, Wander, Journey, and Abiona in the end. We named the puppies after wolves in the wild that had some impact on their community or the world. So you have Journey, OR7, that had traveled from Oregon down into California and dipped back up. You have Rome, who's after Romeo, up in the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska, who was speculated to possibly be a wolf dog, but was kind of hanging out in this open dog park and was befriending everybody's dogs. He was just a lone wolf out there. So in honor, and then Wander also, Journey was also kind of called Wander OR7. So we named the 3 puppies in honor of their wild cousins that made some impact in the world. So this next video is a great way to show the socialization I was talking about. So The large, tall, dark, and handsome boy is Mozzie. I just got back with him from a socialization hike with other wolves he doesn't live with. And then Nolly appeared into the ethers.
I know.
Okay, it's actually great that it has all their sounds in it. That's Nolly. So Nolly is actually, you hear them? So Nolly's actually a wolf dog coyote mix. So if you can actually see, this is a great show of the size difference of a wolf dog to a coyote wolf dog. So a lot of people, you know, they're out hiking and they're like, I saw a wolf. And you're like, you did not see a wolf in Burbank. You saw a coyote. You know, but it's just to show the size difference of them. But you can see in her behaviors, what's really sweet is that I brought Mozzie back. He's coming back with smells. He was out with friends. And then his connection and bond with me is bridging my relationship with Nolly and her to me. So you can see she's very puppy. She's very excited to see Mozzie. She's even making a lot of eye contact and giving me the puppy ears and wiggling and grunting and being very social with me, which was not the case when we first rescued her. So this is a great show to just see how important it is for the pack to have a pack. You know, how important it is that they can bridge off of each other. They support each other in their own healing process and also our process that we work with them. And then, of course, that's Daisy and Neo up top. They're just super adorable. You can see they're all very physical together. Wolves are very physical animals. There we go. So we're going to move on to training. So that was all the fun, enrichment, socialization. This is also super fun. So these animals that you see here are Bella, Nolly, who we just saw, and Ozma, who I talked about with Coda. Now these are three animals. So Wiley is a great show of an animal that can walk on leash, can do ambassador programs, go off site and do presentations. The majority of our pack can be leashed, and we do socialized walks about 3 to 5 times a week, depending on how young they are, their medical needs, their socialization needs, their behavior plans. But we do have some that, due to whatever their past is, they don't wish to come out on leash yet. Never say never. And so, like Bella there, she came from a fox fur farm in Illinois. They somehow had some wolf dogs there as well. Nolly, who we just saw, she was roaming as a stray in Nevada, I believe. Nope, Arizona, sorry. And then Ozma was actually part of a wolf fur farm in Minnesota, which is legal. It's crazy. They were only shut down due to zoning issues, unfortunately. So because of their past and their negativity with humans and also lack of socialization, is they're more of a they touch us, we don't touch them situation. So that's where the fence feeding with them builds that relationship and that trust and that respect with them, pairing them with another friend. All of these guys live with another very social animal, so it helps bridge that relationship as well, which then ties into building a bond to trust us to go onto an alien black hole to stand on that makes weird noises, and us to get their weight. So we weigh our pack every couple of months. We kind of just go through the whole pack and just see where's everybody at, how they doing, fluctuating through the seasons, who needs more food, who's a little chunky, who just got a diet decrease. Not going to name names over here. And for these guys, it's really important and it's really exciting because it's fully free contact. I'm going to show you a really fun video of me working with another wolf, Leo, from a fur farm. Oh, did I go too far? No, one more. There we go. So Leo may come and touch you with his nose, maybe, right? He likes to sniff, he likes to be with you. This is me working with him. With him, I'm moving my body in a way that I'm not coming at him aggressively, but it's coming in a way of just putting enough pressure on one side that gets him to line up right where I want him on the scale. And that's how wolves move each other around, right? They're very non-confrontational beings, so they like to use presence to either put more pressure on, take pressure off, or just disengage completely. And so you can see with me resetting him, and just it helps him get on to where I need. He holds it so beautifully. He's a champion. He's a good boy. And so that's the relationship, right? And wolves are great teachers in that a bond and a relationship and a connection with one another can look so many different ways. It does not have to be fully physical, full contact in each other's space all the time. It could simply just be, I'm giving you trust and you're giving me trust back, and we can do hard things together. There we go. So another really important training we do is crate training. You watching your kid over there? This is crate training. So crate training obviously serves many good purposes: medical care and evacuation. Nobody's going to be shy of what's happening in Southern California right now. We are in Southern California ourselves, and we're on ready a couple weeks ago with one of the fires to evacuate, which we do trainings and with the wolves and mock runs and such. But crate training is very important, especially for those animals we can't really touch or leash ourselves. So in here, you can see various situations like Nolly practicing her crate training. So we do specific sessions of crate training. So we're getting the one-on-one relationship and understanding with us. And then those who don't leash, they have their crate actually lives in their habitat with them all the time. So it smells like them, they pee on it, they eat their PM meal in it. So it's a very comforting space. And we've actually seen that in some situations. We had one emergency with a wolf for a vet, and we gave her the option of how we were going to control her. We had her crate out. She was kind of worried. She looked at us, looked at the crate, and she walked right into the crate. So it really shows that the training is highly beneficial for them and for us to make it as non. And then Quinn over there, that's me working. A lot of times when we go to the vet, it's a situation for us. And so we do multitasking with the wolves. And it just gives us a great option to continue to build a relationship. So at that time with Quinn in the crate, she was completely untouchable, very spooked, very fearful. We had just read her a couple months before. But then from there, she now actually goes out on leash with other wolves because we've been able to continually build that relationship and that bond. And also that understanding is I'm taking you to a scary place, but then we're coming back safely together. So we have Charlie on the next video, just showing you what free contact crate training looks like with one of our untouchables. She's a sister to Bella that came.
Charlie crate.
So this was a little bit ago. We were kind of practicing having the door detached. We were practicing having it a little bit closed, see how shy she was. We're now at the point that we can have it open just like a couple inches, and she will nose the door open herself and go in and go out. And we actually had ones that we were able to get her in and safely close the door on her. Of course, she was like, what are we doing? That wasn't part of the plan, but she handled it really well. So it's been really great to watch the progression of their training and how beneficial it is for them. All right, so we're at medical school here. Vet care for the wolves. So this goes into, of course, lots of vet visits. As I said, a lot of these animals come to us in very poor condition, and a lot of people breed and make these animals to sell as pets, and usually it's to make a profit off of. It is not worrying about what's happening anatomically with that animal. So we have seen a lot of very bizarre diagnoses with different animals. This is Theo, and one day, I mean, he's a very interesting makeup. His eyes were very wide set apart like a deer, very goofy, big flipper paws, but one of his rear legs just stopped working. Like just a nerve totally shut down, no injury happened, nothing was able to be explained. MRI, spinal tap, radiographs, 5 specialists on him, and no one could find an answer. Eventually led to the amputation of his leg because it wasn't serving him anymore, and he was about to get rid of it himself, as wolves might do. And so we helped him along the way, and then he lived happily for a while after that with 3 legs. We have a lot of we've had a few tripods over the years. But you can see that we train, we go in, we have the crate just behind him actually. And then we train all of our wolves to wear muzzles as well, which I'll go into the next slide of that. This is just a good show of like, you know, the vets are like, okay, she's spayed, you got to put a cone on her head. And we're like, okay, we'll entertain you for that for one moment. This is Daisy. She was a year old. She got spayed. She wore it for like 5 minutes, and then she showed us that she wasn't wearing it anymore. We were there the whole time. She never ingested anything. We traded her for a treat, and she willingly gave it up. But it is a show that We do still use what vets we have nearby us, and a lot of it is crossing with dog anatomy and dog vets and specialists. And at the same time, we're training the vets how to work with the wolves. Over the years, we've had to teach them the appropriate dosing of sedation. Wolves are usually more sensitive to things, but they fight it harder to begin with. Survival mechanism. So many vets take to give a sedation, it's not working, give more, and then suddenly the wolf's crashing. We've been in those situations, and we learned that the hard way very early on. And so now we're quite the advocate for these animals, and we're like, these 3 drugs work, and this is how much you give based on weight. But we have really great relationships with our vets. The next one, like the muzzles, this is not only for the vet staff safety and our safety, but it's also for the wolves' safety. So one, it helps them feel safer and more comfortable. Nikumi here is fully awake. As you can see, she's sticking her tongue out at us. She was also very fighting sedation. And then Jade, I believe, it's either Jade or Navari, I forget. But we train them to wear the muzzles because we have actually had some accidents happen. Nobody got hurt, but like we're in a medical room with a wolf and suddenly someone comes in with their Boston Terrier on a retractable leash and we're like, nah, don't do that. So it's more of that the wolf's not going to do anything, but if that dog does something and then the wolf gets involved, the wolf's going to be the one to blame. So it's for everybody's safety in that regard. So we teach them how to put it on and off. And then Willow there, it's really nice because we have such great relationships with our medical teams in various different hospitals that we're there all day. We never leave. They let us in the back. We work hands-on. This is us helping her wake up from a surgery. She's a little older, so she had some masses removed. So we're wrapped her in a blanket to keep her warm and just kind of hang out with her and also help her have that familiarity that she's safe. You know, she's not waking up in a closed kennel in the back with barking dogs. And then this. So was mentioned, I do have some veterinary tech skills I learned at school and on the job. Massive respect to you. I did not actually go to a formal school about it. I was just trained as was. And so it does help though, because Luna here has IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, and she does have to have routine ultrasounds to check what's going on with her. Most often you would think a wolf or even some dogs have to be sedated. Be shaved like that, held upside down, and get a very accurate imaging of ultrasound. She's fully awake in this situation. And that's due because they allowed me to be able to come in and help hold her. And then also it's really nice because for them, they like it because as they're finding things, they're just telling me directly on the spot rather than having to relay it afterwards. So it's very efficient for everyone. This is one of our wonderful general vets with a couple of our wolves, which we're very grateful for. He's really one, this is Dr. Shakar. He really helped develop what vet care can be for our wolves at our sanctuary. You know, what kind of things he can come up to the sanctuary and actually do on site without having to deal with transport. And then of course, being very specific to what needs to come. He always starts with minimal is more with the wolves, which has been really beneficial to less drugs in the wolf system, calmer situations for the wolves, and easy time for us. This is just a great relationship, and I point this out because this is going to take us into our next section. So this here is a few of us, me, my boss, Elena. Michelle is a vet tech. She's amazing. She has worked at the ranch and also at one of the big VCAs in LA. And this is a wonderful doctor, Dr. Robertson, who we created a relationship with her, I believe about 5-6 years ago with Ayasha here back then. And she was so moved by the animals and what we do that she at that time said, if you guys need anything, let me know. Well, that time came last weekend. So last weekend we had to help one of our elders pass away. And she very willingly said, I'll come up and I'll help. And so she came with Michelle and helped create a very peaceful, calm environment for Max to pass away with his pack in his habitat, surrounded by his humans. So with transitions, you know, we rescue these wolves together. They give everything to us, lessons and teachings. You know, we're here to provide sanctuary for them, but they're giving us such great medicine and healing our own hearts as they need to for humanity, as we try to do through our programs. And the only thing that we can do at the end is to honor them as beautifully as we can. So when we do have a wolf pass away, we try every aspect to have them pass away on site at the ranch with their pack and with their humans. And then from there, we gather together staff from all departments in the organization, volunteers, even past staff and past volunteers that had relationships with these wolves come back to visit and help with the transition as well. And so we carry them together after we decide what part of the land we're going to bury them on. So we have 165 acres ourselves on the sanctuary, grandfathered into the national forest. So many times we come together as a pack, as humans, and decide what's the spot that represents this wolf the best. You know, what was their favorite trail, or what was their shining moments in a program, or where they created great relationships with people or another wolf. So we carry them together. We dig their hole together, and it's a whole process of gathering rocks and digging the hole. We have lots of rocks, so usually involves taking big boulders out of the spots and really making it a beautiful place for them. And from there, we gather together and we share stories. We share memories. We share lessons. And there's lots of crying and laughing and more crying to really celebrate this animal that we've been honored to care for, and yet they've given everything to us. Respect, relationship, trust, what vulnerability is, and how to be part of a pack and be part of their ecosystem. And so a lot of times that involves people bringing some kind of offering. We have various people that do poems and all kinds of things. It's very beautiful, flowers and feathers, everything. And so from there is then that provides us a sacred space to continue to visit, not just for ourselves to revisit, or even if they have wolves that are still alive that were friends, they visit their grave, and it always seems to know, they know who's in which grave, and also for our programs. So really teaching about legacy. So even though maybe they're physically gone now, there's so many ways within the pack that they still live on. So one of those is, for example, we had one of our original wolves from 15 years ago. She became our female pack leader, and she was also a nanny. And she led the pack beautifully, fiercely, gently, with pure sweetness. Her name was Maya. And she eventually took on Nova when we rescued her at 6 months old. And we thought, okay, Nova's young, Nova's abused, she probably is taking her under her wing. Didn't translate until Maya passed away that Nova stepped up and became the pack nanny and started taking care of the whole pack in a different way. And so to this day, then Nova has helped raise Wiley, has helped raise the 3 puppies you saw running off leash. She's helped, and then a lot of the adults that come in, she's a lot of time their first friend and helps them bond and bridge with the pack. So their legacy passes on through each wolf and through each of us. And so this next slide I want to show you is honoring 7, I cry. It's a good day at Wolf Connection if someone cries. Is that these are 7 of our ancestors that had just passed away within the last year. And so I wanted to share their incredible faces and souls with you all. From top left over, we have Maya, Ashki, JC, Kenai, Theo, Wolfie, and Max just last weekend. I want you to just be gifted with their presence for at least a moment to honor them. And that's that. It's all for you, Wiley. So I open it, yep, to any questions that anybody has.
Hello, okay. Everybody wipe away their tears. I know I am. Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry, I thought you raised your hand. I was wondering, oh, that's loud. I was wondering, what tends to be the, I guess like, reproductive status of the wolves or wolf dogs when you get them, and are they altered, or is there like contraceptive programs or something in place?
Yes, so for our animals, they're all wolf dogs of various mixes. They're all spayed and neutered. That is also part of our permitting and licensing. We do not condone the breeding of these animals. They're a completely man-made creature used for profit in some way. And we would like to more do education and hopefully be out of business someday, really. We can only hope, but we need more laws for that. So, but on our side, all of our animals are spayed and neutered. We don't allow any breeding. Many animals come to us intact, and so we do have to do fundraising and get them the medical care to get spayed and neutered. But that is typically our intro of a new rescue is they go into an acclimation enclosure. We can make sure that they're not bringing anything into our pack as well. And then it's signing them up for a vet visit, and that usually entails a full blood panel, full body x-rays, spay or neuter if they need it, and to catch up on any vaccines if they haven't had any of them.
Hello? Okay, now it's fine. Hi. So I was curious, you mentioned a few different like incongruencies between dogs and wolves. Since you get a lot of these animals where people assume it's just a big dog. You talked about like behavior and diet. Are there any other really common things that people don't think about as differences between dogs and wolves that people should know about?
Mostly everything. So unfortunately, our society has created what we think are wolves are not wolves. You know, most animals we see in movies and in commercials are typically shepherds, huskies, mixes, maybe even like a Czechoslovakian wolf dog, which has had the wolf bred out of it over years. So they look wolfy, but they're not really wolf dogs. Also, the hard part, obviously, you see how well behaved Wiley is here. There is a time limit on this, so he's going to need to get back to the sanctuary. But this can kind of be false advertising for people, right? There's many times that people either have what we call a low content wolf dog, so it's very, very little wolf in it and mostly dog. And they're out at the coffee shop, they go to the dog park, and so they're promoting, oh, I have this wolf, right? And a lot of times people think their animal has more wolf than it actually does. That happens a lot. We focus a lot of rescue efforts on education. We get rescue inquiries every week. 90% of them are not even wolf dogs. But people swear, well, I paid $5,000 for him. He's 87%. It's like, that's not a wolf dog. So we do a lot of education with that. And it is just a lot of people have a false sense that, oh, it's just going to be like, you know, a difficult German Shepherd or, you know, an independent Husky, but they don't understand the shyness that they can have, the heavy imprints that can happen on them. A lot of things can happen in a household. We had an animal that was with a family and a bowl dropped in the kitchen. That animal became petrified of humans for years after that. So it's something very simple that can trigger their brain. And also, it's just not a good environment for them. I mean, Wiley's being very well behaved here with us. We've had him since he was 4 months old, so we hand raised him in that sense. But he still loves being outside with the pack in his environment, and he can get pretty wild himself, and he should be. He needs to be. But a lot of people get mistaken for it's really improper diet, improper containment, improper handling. These animals are also a lot smarter than most dogs. Typically, wolves' brains are about 35% larger than your average domestic dog. So their level of intelligence is also much higher and usually can't be satisfied in a human environment. And then it's a challenge when you're talking about wolf dogs. So Wiley here, we would consider a mid-content. He's about half and half. And a lot of people will have a hard time understanding like what part am I having to treat as dog or what part am I having to treat as wolf, or that they try to come on with a very aggressive dog training tactic and that totally backfires. And then their needs just can't be met. You know, they really have to have the pack, they have to have the enrichment, they have to have the physical and mental exercise that usually is just not provided in a domestic situation. You know, these animals were man created and are stuck between that wild and domestic world.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Following up on that, how do you go about, like, I guess, identifying a wolf dog? Like, especially like us, if we're gonna be out in GP and somebody comes in, it's like, I have a wolf dog. Like, how can we differentiate them from one that's more dog or more wolf and appropriately like educate them, I guess, too.
I would be happy to offer you guys a class and to come to the sanctuary and learn. You've had groups come to the ranch before. It's a process called phenotyping. So phenotyping is putting together physical characteristics and behavioral characteristics. There is DNA testing, but depending on what you do, sometimes it's not fully accurate, and it gets very mixed. I mean, I've seen a full German Shepherd have percentages of wolf in them, and then people believe that they have a wolf. You're like, that's not, it's a dog. But it takes time and understanding and being with the animals, being with the wolves to understand their behavior and understand the differences of their physical traits. Just to name on Wiley, like more wolfy traits are obviously his multi-mix coat. It's very thick, more coarse guard hairs with a very soft down undercoat. He has the smaller ears, they're fully furred. He has more of the almond-shaped eyes rather than the rounded eyes like dogs do. His eyes are a little on the darker side. They're a little bit like darker orange into brown, which is more doggy. Wolves, as you see with some of the others, they had more yellow eyes or lemon yellow eyes or golden amber yellow eyes. But the way that his coat blends together, you think of camouflage. Huskies would have that solid mask on their face, and people are like, oh, my blue-eyed husky is a wolf. It's not. Wolves don't have blue eyes. That's a mutation, just like with us humans. And then the way that they walk, they single track, in their own steps. They're usually more slender. He's actually only, what would you guess how much he weighs, for example? Based on his size. Wiley, come here.
I was gonna say like 60.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, I forget. You guys are medical students. So this is the wrong crowd. You guys are more accurate. A lot of people guess him to be like 90 pounds. And if you think of a dog at his height, usually they're more dense. They're a lot heavier. Wolves are leaner. They're like long distance runners. So in the summer, they shed out only once a year in the spring, and he'll look half the size. Yeah. And right now he's about, I think last we weighed him, he was like 71 pounds. But yeah, there's a lot more other characteristics, like the black tip tail and the scent gland he has on the back of his tail here and between his hackles on his shoulders. But then there's a lot more other physical attributes and behavioral attributes. So it's a little difficult to quickly just on the fly diagnose an animal as a wolf dog, especially in a vet situation, because also behaviors get misconstrued in vet environments because people are like, well, he's being shy and skittish. And it's like, yeah, but my grandma's dachshund does too. So that doesn't make him a wolf. But we have had many situations where we've had animal control say, hey, we have this wolf, this vet tech said it was a wolf dog. So either it's going to be killed or you guys have to take it. We're like, but it's not a wolf. They don't know what they're talking about, So I would be happy to work with you guys to help you teach and educate. We have a lot of information on our website as well. And your school has come out for field trips before, so we can definitely use that as a focus. And then you get to see the other wolves too, which is really fun because then I could say, this is a dog ear, low content. This is a high content, almost all wolf with maybe a dash of dog, So then it's really by being with them, seeing the differences and then experiencing their different personalities and behaviors, which is what hones in your understanding of what's a wolf dog and what's not.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what is the process for confiscation? Are you guys working with like local organizations or local law enforcement, like CDF? What does that look like?
A lot of it is either private owners will contact us or a neighbor will say, my neighbor has a wolf dog. Or animal control gets a hold of us, different shelters. There is a nationwide network of different sanctuaries across the US, and we stay in contact with each other. So let's say someone reaches out to us, but they're in Florida, so we work with the nationwide network to even see if there's a sanctuary closer to them rather than traveling all the way to California. So we have had animals from Delaware, Maine, Florida, Alaska, Mexico. Like we definitely have gotten animals from all over the place. And it also just depends on content of the animal, behavior of the animal, what are their needs, depending on what sanctuary that they could safely go to. It's also the challenge is that, at least for us, we just opened up, I believe it was this year, our second den. So that's why we have so many animals. We have 2 different dens with multiple habitats in both spaces. So we're able to extend how many animals we have. And we have 165 acres, so we have a lot more that we could do with that. Many sanctuaries throughout the US. There's very few sanctuaries and there's a lot of rescues. There's a difference between that of someone promoting themselves as a rescue and they're not really an official rescue versus a true sanctuary that has these animals for life and does advocacy and has the proper licensing and permitting. But it is definitely a process of either educating people that think they have a wolf dog when they contact us and saying this is not a wolf dog, but here are other dog rescue resources for you. And we also take our time to tell them why their animal is not a wolf. So any opportunity that we have to spread some kind of education and awareness about what a wolf dog is and what a wolf dog isn't, we do. But yeah, we've definitely worked with, I mean, the 2 that we got from Delaware were confiscated by the actual state and were held at the zoo. And we were in contact with the state vet that FedEx them on a FedEx plane to get here. It was a really crazy experience where the ranger arrived with them and everything. So we do as much as we can. And they actually tried to work with places on the East Coast, and they were not comfortable with either people not being legit sanctuaries or sanctuaries that adopted wolf dogs back out. Yeah, so that is different based on laws in different states, that it gets really murky. So that's why they actually contacted us and chose us. Even though it was the most farthest point across the US, they felt that they were the safest with us.
Hello, hello. We have one more question from Gabby, if you want to go ahead and ask it.
Oh, hi. Well, technically I had a couple, but Vivian asked my first question because I don't know what a wolf really looks like, to be quite honest. But my second question was, I guess, and maybe I missed it, but how did you get started working with wolves? And do you have like a soul dog, you know?
Wow. Okay. How I got started with Wolf Connection is actually my husband and my daughter are here today. And my husband, before he was my husband, started Wolf Connection. And so he at the time had rescued a wolf dog puppy and was also a life coach for teens in the greater LA area. And in that process, in a nutshell, was looking for a new edge to the life coaching to get to these kids in a better, safer, more impactful way. And he was seeing the dynamic that this little wolf dog, who we call the co-founder of Wolf Connection, was having on the way that these kids were opening up. He was seeing the healing, the therapy process being exponential more than just human to human, and knowing that she needed a playmate, she needed a pack. And so one thing led to a next. He found this dog rescue. If you guys know of Tia Torres, who started Villalobos Rescue. She had her pit bull sanctuary out in Agua Dulce, and she, a year prior, had rescued a pack of 16 wolves and wolf dogs from a hoarding situation out in the desert. And that's basically what kind of kickstarted into pick any of them into taking them all and starting a nonprofit rescue for Teo. And so from there has been building it from the ground up, coming up on 16 years ago now. And so for me, I had met Teo early on at a local cafe, and he had 2 of the wolf dogs with him on a break and for socialization. And I was at the time finishing up at the Edom program and recognized that those were not dogs. And it started conversation, and here we are now, 15 years later, creating the organization together, building it up to all the students that we serve in our community as well. And then I think there is one more question. I forget what the other part was.
Oh,
do
I
I
was
have
just
a
asking
soul
if you have,
dog?
yeah, soul dog.
Goodness, soul wolf.
Yes.
Gosh, that's so hard. People ask me all this at the time. It's like comparing apples and oranges. I do have a handful of them that I have a specific relationship with. Wiley here is one of them. I also hand raised him, so there's a different relationship with him in that regards. And there is a handful of other ones. I could go down the list: Jax, Daisy, the triplets, the puppies you saw in the video. Leo, having that relationship with him, Mozzie, you saw, and Nolly. Anyway, I'm going to end up naming all 44 wolves if I continue. But the relationships are all so different that it's really incredible to see that, you know, Wiley will sleep at the bottom of my feet for the rest of his life if he could. That's just how much he wants to be near me, and I like to be near him. Max, who just passed away, he was an animal, for example, that was, we called him a touch alert. So his previous caretaker, he was in not a healthy lifestyle and was messed with a lot. So he was very sensitive to any kind of touch. And we don't know the extent of why that was, but you can only speculate based on his behaviors. And so he didn't really accept touch. He didn't really like bonds that way. But what I developed with him was this lesson of learning what true vulnerability and trust and respect is, that in his 15 years of life, 14 of those at Wolf Connection, he had a lot of medical things through life. He was also kind of a goofy animal and would get a stick stuck in his mouth and things like that and had it surgically removed. But even though he wasn't really handleable, he became handleable in those moments because he taught me how to be present with him, not take it personally, and to be showing up for him in the way that, look, I know this isn't fun. This isn't comfortable. It's scary. You're in pain, but we have to get in the crate and we have to get in the truck. And I'm going to bring you back. And every time he had a medical thing, the team would be like, get Renee, get Max, please. Because I had this relationship and I was able to help other people learn how to have that relationship with him that translate to other wolves, that we created such a beautiful bond into his elder years from that as well. So relationships look in so many different ways. Thank you.
Hello. One more question. For the sake of time, we are going to move on, but I do believe that you are welcome to stay for lunch. And so we are open to sitting with speakers and speaking more and asking other questions. But we are going to go to our next speaker, and Rachel is going to go ahead and introduce her while we get everything set up.
Thank you all.